Krishna Kirtana Ganana Tanapano Premamritam Manidhi
Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksura Militanyena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah Sri Chaitanya-manabhistam stabhitanyena bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamaya Dadanti Swapadantikam. First of all, I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Shiksha and Diksha Guru, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Asatarasata Sisimad, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Then I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Shiksha and Sannyas Guru, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Asatarasata Sisimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my two Shiksha Gurus, Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Bhagavan, the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Arjuna, the hearer of Bhagavad Gita, and to Srimad Bhagavad Gita itself. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of those who wrote commentaries on Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Sridhar Swami Pad, Sri Ramanujacharya, Sri Madhvacharya, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Baladev Vijayabhushan, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I offer my humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas and the Vaishnavis who are present here today, my Dandavat Pranam. Okay, so yesterday we finished 11th chapter, Vishwarup Yoga, the manifestation of Krishna's Vishwarup, his universal form. And we also discussed the beginning of 12th chapter. So in these, in following the narrative driven by the questions, the 16 questions of Arjuna. So the 10th question was asked in verse 10:16. So, between 8:1 and 8:2, those two questions in the beginning of 8th chapter, those questions were all answered in 8th chapter, 9th chapter, and beginning of 10th chapter. Arjuna affirms, he reflects back in verses 11 and 12, 13, like this, not 11 and 12, 12, 13, he glorifies Krishna, and 14, 15, he reflects back and says, yes, I have, in fact, understood all the points that you were trying to make in answering my questions from there. Now I have another question. The next question I have is, can you show me your vibhutis, your opulences? So in 10th chapter, he shows the opulences. Then the next question, 11.3, okay, now you've told me about your opulences. Now I want you to show me your opulences. Show me how you inhabit this universe in the universal form. So he shows that. Then in 11:31, he says that it is too frightening to see this. Too frightening. So please show me your four-armed Vishnu form, then your two-armed form, like this. So then Krishna shows him the four-armed form, then the two-armed form. Then Arjuna says, now I'm in my, seeing the original form, I'm in my original state of consciousness. So we establish that Krishna is the source of all the opulences in the 10th chapter. He maintains them by a fragment of himself, Paramatma. That he is everywhere in this universe through the Vishwarup, and he is also everywhere in this universe and in Vaikuntha by the Vishnu form, Narayan form of four arms. And then he shows the two-armed form. And after Arjuna sees and hears about all the forms, he says, now seeing this original form means that two-armed form is source of Vishnu form, two-armed form is source of Narayan, of Paramatma, of Vishvarup. All forms come from two-armed form of Krishna Bhagavan. He is the source. Then he explains, Krishna explains in 11:53 and 54, that it is only by undivided devotional service, Ananya Bhakti, that you can achieve me. Then at that point, after saying this, that no karma, no jnana, only bhakti, Arjuna wants to ask one more question. Which is superior, to worship the impersonal or the personal by devotional service? Krishna reiterates the best course of action with the least amount of trouble is the process of worshiping my personal form through devotional service. So in each stage of this 10, 11, and 12, the conversation is being driven to establish certain points. The ultimate point being that the personal form of Krishna is the source of all other manifestations, and that the process of undivided devotional service, one-pointed devotional service, is the process by which we worship that form, that two-armed form. Now all of this has been established. Now the details of what is undivided devotional service, Ananya Bhakti, is going to be explained now in these next verses of 12th chapter. Now we are in the process of Bhakti Yoga. The next question won't be asked till 13th chapter, 13.1. So, ye tu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matpada ananyenaiva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsarasagarat bhavamina chirat parta maya veshita chelasam. For one who worships me, giving up all his activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, who has his mind fixed upon me, O son of Pritha, for him I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So, Krishna has said in the previous verses 12, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, he has established, worship my personal form. Now he is saying, again, mam, me, mam, dhyayanta, upasate, worship, upasate. Upasate means worship. Dhyayanta means to meditate. Mam, unto me. Worship me, meditate on me, keep your mind fixed on me. In this way, Krishna is telling personal process, personal worship. This is bhakti yoga, not impersonal, not meditating on the formless, but meditating on me, unto me. Mai aveshita chetasam, of those whose minds are fixed on me. Everything me, me, me. Huh? This again, manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam naraskuru. Me, me, me. Krishna is making the emphasis again, it is me. Prabhupada, he again insists, it is explicitly stated here that the devotees are very fortunate to be delivered very soon from material existence of the Lord. I am the swift deliverer, Krishna says. O son of Pritha, for him, that person who worships me exclusively, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. In pure devotional service, one comes to the realization that God is great and that the individual soul is subordinate unto him. Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, this is the slave mentality. But we happily become the slave of Krishna. We don't want to be another person's slave. But Krishna's slave, yes, okay. We are glad to be the slave of Krishna. And if we take shelter of Krishna in this way, in slave mentality, then we will be very happy. His duty is to render service to the Lord. If not, then he will render service to Maya. Krishna tells this thing. Gauragovinda Maharaj used to say, Krishna tells this thing. So, Prabhupada used to give the example. He used to say, Jiva, the soul, is called Jiva. So Jiva means he has to choose between Maya and Krishna because he is marginal potency, tatastha shakti. So he is always on the line. What am I choosing? Maya or Krishna? Maya or Krishna? This is Jiva. Jiva is tatastha. Okay. Prabhupada said he chooses between Maya and Krishna. Here he is saying his duty, the soul's duty, is to render service to the Lord. If not, then he will render service to Maya. Then Prabhupada said, Jiva means one is choosing Maya or Krishna, Maya or Krishna. And a pure devotee means one always chooses Krishna. Always chooses Krishna. He never chooses Maya. And what is the choice? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur explains very simple, one sentence. The tendency to give pleasure to Krishna is bhakti. The tendency to give pleasure to Krishna. Not to myself, not to my senses, not to please me, but to please Krishna. How can Krishna's senses be pleased? How can they be satisfied? When Krishna plays the flute and the gopis run there and they come to see Krishna, they have given up their husbands, their children, their cooking duties, their responsibilities to their parents. They have given up everything. In the West, we cannot actually comprehend what is the meaning of this statement, because we very easily give up our families and we go out into the world and make a life. But not in India. It is not permitted. It is not allowed. It is not allowed. In India, there are cultural and social responsibilities which people take very, very seriously. I must follow the order of my mother. Gaur Govinda Swami told me, I never wanted to marry, but my mother ordered me. I could not refuse. The order of the mother for the children, especially the son, is like the order of God. So leaving behind the elders, leaving behind the father, the mother, the father-in-law, the mother-in-law, leaving them behind to go in the middle of the night, and leaving the husband to go in the middle of the night to dance with somebody else. Forbidden. Forbidden. Here we don't have such social structure. Here it is not unusual that a man or a woman is married, they have a family, but they may go out to a dance or to another place, and they'll be with some man, some woman of the opposite sex, a friend. This is not considered against the rules of social structure in Western society. But not in India. It is not permitted. It is not permitted. So, they gave up everything. All these things they gave up. And when Krishna asked them, why have you come here? Why have you left your superiors, husband and father and a mother, and your dependents, your children, and your duties, your cooking and cleaning? You have left all of these things behind. All the responsibilities and all of the social responsibilities you have left behind. Why have you done that? Gopis say, we have come here to give you pleasure. The tendency to give pleasure to Krishna is bhakti. And to do that, the gopis are the best example because they sacrificed everything. They gave up everything. As stated before, the Supreme Lord can only be appreciated by devotional service. Therefore, one should be fully devoted. One should fix his mind fully on Krishna in order to achieve him. One should work only for Krishna. It does not matter in what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. That is the standard of devotional service. If one does the work for Krishna, then this next sentence. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The tendency to give pleasure to Krishna is bhakti. Prabhupada is saying, same thing. Same thing. Same principle is being espoused by Srila Prabhupada. It is very important that we understand what our role is. If we want to achieve perfection in devotional service, we can achieve perfection in devotional service by the process of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead and giving Him pleasure, by fixing our mind upon Him, by meditating upon Him, by engaging in His service, by doing all the activities unto me, being devoted to me without deviation. This is the process. This should be understood to be, in a sense, rag bhakti, because this is spontaneous service, that you are always engaged. How? Because you want to be engaged. Huh? You want to be engaged. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this is very informative, very enlightening. Sri Bhagavan says, this is again inner dialogue. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is giving his inner dialogue of Krishna. Sri Bhagavan says, without Gyan, simply by bhakti alone, my bhaktas are easily and blissfully freed from this material existence. Here the word sannyas means tyaga, to give up, becoming free from karma, jnana, tapasya, and other processes. My bhaktas give up all other activities for my sake and engage in worship of me with ananya bhakti for the purpose of achieving me. Thus, they are easily and happily freed from the material world. So, this is important because the emphasis is ananya bhakti. No karma, no jnana, no tapasya, no yoga. All other things should be rejected. Whatever result one achieves by the performance of karma, tapasya, jnana, and vairagya, and also whatever my bhakta desires, be it swarga, moksha, or even residence in my dham, can all be easily attained by the performance of my bhakti yoga. So, these things, like getting the different opulences, meaning to be born on the planet of Vishnu, to have a form like Vishnu, or to have the opulences of Vishnu. These things, there is different opulences. They are rejected. Srila Kapila Dev explains that my pure devotees reject all of these things. If you want pure devotional service, if you want to be on the highest platform, then you will reject all these things. You will not try to get them. But here it is pointing out that there is also another consideration. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second canto, it is said, Akama sarvakamo va. Akama means if you have no desires. Sarvakamo va. Or if you have all kinds of desires. Sarvakama. Mokshakama udaradi. Or if you want moksha. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Whatever you want, you have no desires, all desires, moksha desire, whatever you desire. Tivrena bhakti yogena. You do bhakti. You do bhakti. Will it be pure bhakti? Will it be ananya bhakti? Not exactly, but if you do bhakti, if you serve the Lord will always bless you. Therefore, he's saying here, in this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11 canto, 20th chapter, verses 32 to 33, whatever result one achieves by the performance of karma, tapasya, jnana, and vairagya, and also whatever my bhakta desires, even if it is to go to swarga, or to have moksha, or even residence in my dham, can all be easily attained by the performance of my bhakti yoga. It is also said in the Narayaniya Moksha Dharma, the fruits one receives from performing sadhana to attain the 4 types of human goals. Do you know what is the 4 types of human goals? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. 4 goals. Dharma means religion, religious activities. In what is known today as Hinduism. So, they perform religious activities. And all of the different religious activities, according to the hymns of the Vedas, are performed to different devas in order to achieve the other goals of human life. So, artha means economic development. How do you have economic development? Well, you can only get economic development if first you get a good education. So, then the first thing you will do, worship of Saraswati. That Saraswati give me good brain so I get good education, so I can get a good job or a good business and make money in life and have a good life. This is the first thing. Then, if that is not fulfilled, if that is not satisfied, or when that is satisfied, when one performs their worship of Saraswati and gets their education, then they need to get a job or to get into a business. So, how will they do that? They will worship Ganesh. That Ganesh, please remove the obstacles for my economic development. Then when they have the job and they have the business and they're working and they're making money, then they will worship Lakshmi to get Lakshmi, money. So like this, they are worshiping these deities. They're doing dharma to get artha. Then in India, in order to get a suitable wife or a suitable husband, the women and men worship Shiva and Parvati in different forms. Just like we read that the gopis, they wanted to get Krishna as their husband, so they worship goddess Katyayani, a form of Durga, Parvati. They worshipped Katyayani, that you please bless us, that Krishna will become our husband. And Krishna heard their prayers. Oh, I hear what my bhaktas want. My bhaktas' desires, be it swarga, moksha, or even residence in my dham, can all be easily attained by performance of bhakti yoga to me. So they were worshipping Katyayani with the mood of, I will get Krishna as my husband. This is bhakti yoga. Okay, you want me? Okay, now you come before me and get your clothes, and now you will be my wife. So this is Krishna's mercy. Krishna understands. So that is the kama, okay? Dharma, artha, kama. Kama, no, lust, desire, for sense pleasure. You worship the deities of Katyayani or Durga or Shiva to get husband or wife, okay? Now, other is moksha. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. This is the chatu purushartha, the four goals, human goals of life. So, moksha means that you will worship 5 deities. In Jnana Yoga, you will worship Surya, Narayan, Shiva, Durga, and Ganesh. These 5. It's called Panchopasana. You worship these deities and you pray that I want to achieve liberation from this world in the Brahman effulgence. You understand? So you worship these forms according to this process until you are finished, you have achieved the Brahman, then you give up worship. You give up the deity. So this is different. This is the Chatu Purushartha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So he's saying, the fruits one receives from performing sadhana to attain the 4 types of human goals are attained by a person who has taken refuge in Sri Narayan without performing any such sadhana. By worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you will achieve all the goals of human life, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Everything will be achieved. If one asks, by which sadhana do they cross over the material world? Then listen to what I have to say about this. This question is irrelevant, Krishna is saying, because I myself deliver them, even if they do not perform any sadhana. Simply by surrendering unto me, I deliver them. From this statement, it is understood that Bhagavan only exhibits his Vatsalya Bhav toward his bhaktas, and not towards the jnanis, karmis, or yogis. So Krishna's Vatsalya Bhav is very strong. Very strong. He is a loving father. Then Srila Narayan Maharaj points out, in the previous two slokas, Sri Bhagavan is explaining the glories of his Ananya Bhakti and his Ananya Bhakta. By performing this Ananya Bhakti, and by the mercy of Bhagavan, an Ananya Bhakta can very easily cross over the ocean of material existence and attain supremely blissful prem seva to Sri Bhagavan. So the emphasis again is here. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, he quotes Krishna as saying, I very quickly deliver from the ocean of material existence characterized by birth and death those who take shelter of my Bhagavat Swarup, my personal feature, who make all bodily and social activities completely subordinate to my bhakti. In other words, they will disregard dharma, artha, kama, moksha. They will disregard the social standards. And they will follow the bhakti standards. What is given in bhakti, that they will follow. They will follow the principles of bhakti. And who always meditate upon and worship my Nitya Shri Vigraha, the eternal beautiful human form of Krishna, by the process of Ananya Bhakti. Their hearts thus completely absorbed in me. In other words, in their conditioned state, I give them liberation from the bondage of this illusory material existence. After their bondage of Maya has been cut, I protect them from the suicidal attempt of adopting the conception of oneness. The self-destructive conception of oneness in people whose minds are attached to the unmanifest is the cause of inauspiciousness for them. My vow is, ye yatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamiyam. From this it is understood that those who meditate on the avyakta, unmanifest, become merged in the avyakta swarup. What is my loss in this? Having attained such a destination, the jivas who have the suicidal conception of oneness lose the importance or utility of their own swarup. In other words, they become deprived of the eternal bliss of my loving service. This is all Krishna speaking. Krishna is saying, what is my loss? Krishna is saying, what is my loss in this? Because they lose their swarup. They lose their eternal spiritual form and eternal personal service to me, and the bliss of eternal loving devotional service to me. They lose that. So, and that is my loss. Why? In 15th chapter, Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Because you are my eternal parts and parcels. I want you with me. I want to embrace you as my servant, as my friend, as my mother, as my lover. I want to embrace you. Then this next verse, 8th chapter verse, very important. 8th verse. We did 6 and 7. Now we're doing verse number 8. Okay. Srila Prabhupada makes a few points similar to what has been made by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. I want to say them. In the Varaha Purana, this verse appears. Nayami paramam stanam archi radi gatim vina garuda skandam aropya yatecham anivar ita. The purport of this verse is that a devotee does not need to practice Astanga Yoga in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. Remember, I told you about the verses in second canto where the yogi will place his heel of his foot between the cheeks of the buttocks, plugging up the Muladhara chakra and the Vayu that goes down, okay? So he will plug that up, he will stop that from happening, that the Vayu cannot go down. It cannot bring the soul down through the lower levels of the body. So he blocks it with his heel, and he pushes everything upward. There's 5 kinds of vata. And here is the Udan Vat, the upper, Udan, upward. He wants to get to this Vata, Udan Vat. He doesn't want to have the lower Vatas push the soul out from the bottom, the lower airs. He wants to raise everything and to bring the consciousness here, so that the soul can go here and can leave from the Brahmarandra. Okay? So he closes up the Apanvat by putting his heel in the anus. So Apanvat cannot push down. Samanvat will not follow the equilibrium anymore. Pranvat will also cooperate. Then Udan. And all the Vyanvat will circulate inward and come up into Udanvat. And everything will come here to Sahasra Chakra. And then he will leave. This is Astanga Yoga. By the process of Astanga Yoga, he will leave through the Brahmarandra, and then he will go through the universe. There is a path. It is given in the second canto. How he will go past the Swarga, he will go past Siddhaloka, he will go past Gandharva Loka, he will go past Jnana Loka, Tapa Loka, all the different places where they have unlimited mystic perfections, even Brahma Loka. Then he has to pass all these places with his focus on coming to the Avyakta, the impersonal. And then he will enter through the 8 layers: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. And then he will go through the Viraja river, causal ocean, and then he will enter into the spiritual realm, the Brahman, and he will enter into the Brahmaloka, the Brahman effulgence of God, if that is his meditation. And if he's meditating on Vishnu, then he will enter into Vaikuntha. But by the process of Bhakti Lata Bij, the chanting of the holy name, then that seed of devotion in the heart is watered, and the creeper of devotion climbs through the universe during the course of your life, and eventually takes shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. And there the fruits and flowers of bhakti manifest, and when one dies, you climb that creeper, you follow that creeper, it goes directly to Krishna's lotus feet, and you arrive there. No need for doing any special yoga exercise or anything. Krishna is doing. Krishna will take care. The responsibility is taken by the Supreme Lord. The purport of this verse is that a devotee does not need to practice Astanga Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dana, and Dhyana, Samadhi. He doesn't need to perform this in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. The responsibility is taken by the Supreme Lord himself, Krishna himself. He clearly states here that he himself becomes the deliverer. Krishna will take you. A child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once, riding on the bird carrier Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from this material existence. There's one story. I have a godbrother. He lives in Florida, in Jacksonville. He had no siblings. And when his father was old, he got cancer, and he was in the hospital, but the insurance only covered up to the point where there was a possibility of a cure. Once it became clear that there was no way forward for a cure, then the insurance would no longer pay for his stay in the hospital or for any other treatment. The father didn't have an insurance that also took into consideration hospice care. So the son, who was my godbrother, came and took him, brought him to his house. So he was living in the house, spending his last few months living with his son. Then he woke up in the middle of the night screaming and crying. His son came to the room and he told his son, "There are monsters in my room. Big monsters with big heads and horns and fangs." So then he showed him the picture in the Bhagavatam of the Yamadutas. And the man said, "Yes, these people, they have come to grab me. They had chains and ropes. Can you make them stop?" So the son said, "Yes, I can make them stop. But you have to do everything that I tell you. If you do everything that I tell you, then I will make them stop." So he said, "Okay, whatever you tell me, as long as you can stop them, I will do it." So he took only Krishna Prasadam. He got rid of the television, no more television, only pictures of Krishna and everything in the room. And he had him chanting and chanting. He showed him how to chant Hare Krishna mantra with the beads. He was chanting every day, chanting his rounds and looking at the pictures and following the principles of devotional service. And he did this strictly. And after a couple of days, he said, "Now no monsters are coming." So he just kept following all of this very carefully. And on the day he was passing from this world, he was looking at his son, standing at the foot of the bed, and he was smiling. He said, "Oh, your teacher has come." And the son said, "What do you mean, my teacher has come?" He said, "Don't you see your Prabhupada is there next to you. He is standing there. He has come." "Oh, he has come." Yes, he could see him. And then he said, "Oh, a big swan is coming. A big swan is coming now." And then he smiled and he died. So even in the last stage of life, if you surrender, Krishna will lift you up. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once riding on his bird carrier Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from this material existence. You understand? So, the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is stated, Sarva dharmam parityaja, mamekam saranam braja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami mahasuchaha. One should give up all other processes of self-realization. Sarva dharma. No karma karma yoga dharma, no jnana yoga dharma, no astanga yoga dharma, no tapasya dharma, no other dharma. All dharma should be rejected, and one should simply perform the practice of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That will enable one to reach the highest perfection of life, Prabhupada says. There is no need for one to consider the sinful actions of his past life. Sarva papebhyo, because the Supreme Lord fully takes charge of them. Therefore, one should not futilely try to deliver himself in spiritual realization. Let everyone take shelter of the Supreme Omnipotent Godhead, Sri Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life. Now, the next verse. Maya eva mana adhastva mai buddhim niveshaya nivashishyasi mayeva ata urdvam nasamshaya. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt. Urdvam. The word urdvam means up. Certainly you will go up. You will come up to me. You will not go down to lower species of lower species of life, or to hellish condition. You will not go down. You will go up. You will urdvam. Of this there is no doubt. Na samshaya. Don't doubt that I will bring you up to me, up to my lotus feet. One who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service is in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord, so there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane, he lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna and his internal potency, and when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency. Who is the internal potency of Krishna? Radha, yes. Radha. When a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts these eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnized by eating the remnants. One who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Gita and in other Vedic literatures. Srila Prabhupada says in one place about the importance of prasadam, that when we prepare nice eatables for the satisfaction of Krishna, and Krishna is offered those eatables by the proper process with love and devotion, then that becomes prasadam, and by eating such prasadam, one gets finer brain tissue. And by that, especially milk prasadam. This gives finer brain tissue. And the milk that will nourish the brain tissue, there's different kinds of milk. I have been reading about this. Some cows give, I think it's called A2 milk. The A2 milk is given by all of these cows in India with the hump, the Brahmin cows. These cows give A2 milk. In America, some cows give A2 milk and some do not. And the A2 milk, if it is consumed and it is not contaminated by hormones and also pesticides and antibiotics and so many other things, if we get raw, healthy milk, then that milk will give very good brain tissue when it is offered to Krishna. And by that finer brain tissue, by that finer brain substance, then we can understand the process of devotional service. So then, in the Bhavanubad of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in the inner dialogue, Krishna says, since my bhakti is the topmost process, you should perform bhakti only. To instruct Arjuna in this way, Sri Bhagavan is speaking 3 slokas, beginning here with Mayeva. Worship of the Nirvishesh Swarup has been prohibited by use of the word Eva. Sri Bhagavan says, Mai, meaning unto me. You should fix your mind exclusively on my Shaima Sundara form, which is decorated with yellow garments, Pitambara Dari, and a beautiful forest garland, Vanamala. In other words, remember me and engage your pure intelligence in me. That is, think of me alone. This thinking should be in accordance with the statements of Shastra that establish dhyan or meditation. Then you will live only with me, who am described in the Vedas. This verse, what he is referring to, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it is in our prayers. In the beginning of the Gaudiya Gita Gucci, we have a number of different prayers that we make. And I have heard Srila Gurudev recite this prayer and explain this prayer on different occasions. And on one occasion, he was weeping in ecstasy. And all those who paid great attention to this lecture and heard the transcendental sound vibration from his lips became affected with beautiful sentiments of bhakti. Barha pida biraman mrigamada tilakam kundala krantagandam kanjaksham kambukantam smita subhagamukam swadare nyastavenum shyamam shantam tribangam ravikaravasanam Bhushitam Vaijayantya Vande Vrindavanastam Yuvati Shattabratam Brahmagopala Vesham. I worship that Param Brahma, whose crown is decorated with a peacock feather, whose large forehead is marked with tilak of musk and saffron chandan, whose makara-shaped earrings cast a shadow upon his charming cheeks, which themselves pulverize the pride of sapphires, whose eyes resemble fully blossomed lotus flowers, whose neck tapers like a conch shell, whose lotus face is graced with a gentle smile, who holds a flute to his bimba fruit-like lips, whose bodily complexion is like that of a fresh monsoon cloud, who is supremely peaceful, who stands in a delightful threefold bending posture, whose yellow cloth is resplendent with the rays of the sun, who's adorned with a Vaijayanti flower garland from the forest flowers, who is surrounded on all sides by thousands of gopis, and who resides in Sridham Vrindavan dressed as a cowherd boy. So this verse is given. And this is the verse that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is referring to. Pitambara, Shaima Sundar form, means with body like a fresh, dark monsoon cloud, decorated with yellow garments, Pitambara, and a garland, Vanamala, Vaijayanti Mala, this flower garland. So, this form is what he is talking about, and this verse called Sri Krishna Dhyana, meditation on Sri Krishna. This is the dhyana, this is the meditation. If you want to meditate on Krishna's form, you should recite this prayer and think of this prayer. And this is Krishna's meditation. And by meditating in this way, he says here, remember me and engage your pure intelligence in me. That is, think of me alone. This thinking should be in accordance with the statements of Shastra that establish dhyana, meditation. So this is called Sri Krishna Dhyana. Then you will live only with me, who am described in the Vedas. So this is the perfection of human life. This is spontaneous devotional service. Meditating on Krishna because spontaneously in the heart, one is feeling the impressions, the attraction, the affection for Krishna. So in this way, one is doing spontaneous devotional service. And we will see in the next verses that it is recommended by Krishna that if we are not on the spontaneous platform of devotional service, then we should think of him and act for him in his service through the practices of Vaidhi Bhakti or by Karma Mishra Bhakti, offering the fruit of your work. So that will be discussed in the next verses. In verse 9, in Prabhupada's Gita, it says, Atachitam samadatum na saknosi mai stiram abhyasyogena tato mam ichaptam dhananjaya. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, which is Rag Bhakti, spontaneous devotional service, then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way you will develop a desire to attain me. So, Prabhupada indicates here in the purport, in this verse, two processes of Bhakti Yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna. So this verses 6, 7, 8 are talking about Rag Bhakti. And then the other, okay, and the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. For this second class, there are different rules and regulations prescribed which one can follow to ultimately be elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. So the practice of this Bhakti Yoga, the practice of this Bhakti Yoga, meaning Vaidhi Bhakti, is to put you in a position by which you can attain that spontaneous love. Does Vaidhi Bhakti alone give you spontaneous love? No. Bhakti comes from bhakti. And bhakti is in the heart of the Uttam Bhaktas who are acting on the Madhyam Uttam platform, Uttam Madhyam platform. And there, when Bhakti sees Bhakti Devi in the heart of the Uttam Bhakta, sees the desire of the devotee to attain pure bhakti, then it gradually will come to him by the mercy of Bhakti Devi herself and the sadhu. They will give. They will award the pure bhakti. Bhakti only comes from bhakti. We cannot attain bhakti. It is an American conception that you will work hard and you will get the fruit of your work. Or even in India, they have this conception. This is karma kanda conception. I work hard, I get the fruit. If I do my bhakti, sometimes I hear, I chant all my rounds, I do this, I do that, and then I definitely go to Godhead. But the actual mood is not being developed. It is not being established in the heart. If the mood is not there, and how can we tell when the mood is there? We can tell when the mood is there when that person is expressing loving and affectionate relations with everyone. Because he's feeling the love of Krishna. He has loving and affectionate relationship with Krishna, so then he will be loving and affectionate with all other people. He will not be angry, he will not be envious, he will not be lusty, he will not have any of these negative emotional qualities. He will not criticize. He will be a very sweet-natured person. Then we can understand that that person is exhibiting qualities of bhakti. If we don't see these qualities, if we see people who are angry, irritable, and criticizing and complaining, then we can understand that those persons have some work to do on their spiritual life. But Krishna still loves them very much. So, bhakti comes from bhakti. By the practice of bhakti yoga, these senses can become purified, Prabhupada says. We purify them by offering the food to Krishna and getting the prasadam and purifying the brain tissue and then purifying our actions. As it was spoken about in 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 24, in the purport, Prabhupada talks about Brahmarpanam, how everything becomes transformed back to its spiritual form, its spiritual nature, by the practice of bhakti yoga. Now here, he recommends it again. To practice the regulative principles of bhakti yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles. One should rise early in the morning, take baths, enter the temple, and offer prayers and chant Hare Krishna. Then collect flowers to offer for the deity, cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity, take prasadam, and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow, and one should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This practice can help anyone to rise to the level of God, and then he is sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of bhakti yoga under the rules and regulations with the direction of the spiritual master will surely bring one to the stage of love of God. The emphasis he puts at the end, and one should constantly hear Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita from the pure devotees, because this is how it is transferred. The mood is transferred there, because the mood is with them. Srila Prabhupada says in the commentary to verse 3, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, 25th verse, Satam prasangam mama virya samvido, Bhavanti Ritkarna Rasayana Katha. So the Hari Katha of Satam, pure devotees, is eagerly sought after. Satam Prasanga, the positive association of such devotees. Virya, Satam Prasangam Mama Virya, it has the potency of God, of Krishna, this Hari Katha. Therefore, Bhavanti Ritkarna, the Hari Katha enters the heart, Rit Karna, through the ear, and acts as a rasayana, a rejuvenative, by dissolving the subtle body and liberating the soul from the prison house of the subtle body, and the soul will manifest its eternal spiritual form, spiritual mind, spiritual senses, spiritual intelligence. And by the manifestation of that form, then internally he will perform devotional service to Krishna. So, like this, the emphasis is given there. That is where we get bhakti, from the association of the sadhus and hearing their Harikatha. Srila Prabhupada says in that purport to that verse, 325:25, if one who simply develops theoretical knowledge or study of the scriptures makes only negligible advancement in Krishna consciousness, simply by theoretical knowledge or study of the scriptures, one only makes negligible advancement, very small. Then he also says in that purport, a non-devotee cannot understand the pastimes of Krishna simply by reading Srimad Bhagavatam or any other Vedic literature, because they will think of it as a kind of fairy tale, as a kind of fiction. Why? Then he says, because they have not heard it explained in the proper mood. Simply by reading the book about the Leela, they make some progress. But they will think of the pastimes as fiction, unless it is explained to them in the proper mood. Like I was explaining before, Srila Narayana Maharaj was reciting that prayer, and when he recited that prayer, he was weeping, and others began weeping because they felt the broadcast of his ecstasy. This is called Bhava-bhas. It is the shadow of Bhav that is broadcast by the sadhu. Prema bhakti jaha hoite. He is broadcasting prema. I have read also my god brothers telling stories and god sisters telling stories. In San Francisco, Srila Prabhupada was talking with Shyamasundar, Mukunda, and Jamuna and others, and he was telling some very special pastimes of Krishna, and he began weeping, and all of them began weeping also. And also in Los Angeles, one of my god sisters told, when Srila Prabhupada was singing Jai Radha Madhava and then telling about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, he began weeping, and many devotees in the audience began weeping. And also, so many times, these kinds of things were happening with Srila Prabhupada and with Srila Narayana Maharaj. So this ecstasy, this is called Bhava-bhas, the shadow of Bhav. Prema bhakti jaha hoite. It is broadcast. The prema bhakti is broadcast by the sadhu. Thus, in that verse, 325:25, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, if you hear the pastimes of Krishna explained by a regular devotee, one who is not a satam, a pure devotee, you may be inspired to do bhajana kriya, the practice of bhakti, the 9 principles of devotional service. But if you hear from the Satam, if you hear the excellent pastimes of Krishna explained from the mouths of pure devotees, Sanmukuritam, from the mouth, Prabhupada says, from the mouth, Shruti Stita Gatam, from the mouth of the pure devotee. Then, first your anarthas will be removed. Then, when the anarthas are removed, you will get nishta, firm faith. That is the end of that verse. It says, Shradhir, faith, meaning nishta. Ratir means bhav. So first you will get nishta. Then he says, and then by hearing the excellent pastimes of the Lord explained by the Satam, then you will get ruchi, taste. And then by hearing the excellent pastimes, you will get asakti, attachment. And then by hearing the excellent pastimes, you will get bhav, ecstasy. So Shradhir, Ratir means bhav. Shradhir, Ratir, Bhaktir means praying. And again, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the commentary, by hearing the excellent pastimes of Krishna from the pure devotee, then praying will come. So all stages are coming how? One should constantly hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. This is the process Prabhupada is giving here in this purport. And he is giving in his purports in Bhagavatam. In the first canto, first chapter, 6th verse. Hearing and explaining the revealed scriptures is more important than reading them. One can assimilate the knowledge of the revealed scriptures only by hearing and explaining. This is why Srila Prabhupada told us every day you write something. Even a little bit, you should write something every day. So, hear and you explain. Then you will assimilate. Then you will assimilate. So this is the process of Krishna consciousness. So we have Raga Bhakti and we have Vaidhi Bhakti. And then, if you cannot practice all the rules and regulations, try to work for me. Maybe you do a little chanting, maybe you do a little, take some prasad, you work hard outside, you do some work in the fields or whatever, but you give up the fruit of your work to Krishna. Then you will come to the perfect stage. Gradually, by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. This is the next verse. Abhyase pyasa marto si. In the practice. Abhyas yoga. One who is not able to even practice regulative principles of bhakti yoga under the guidance of spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. We read that 55th verse of the 11th chapter. Mat karmakrin, mat paramo, mat bhakta, sanghavarajita. My dear Arjuna, one who is engaged in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of previous activities and from mental speculation, who is friendly to all living entities, certainly comes to me. So here, one should be engaged in Krishna's service. He should use his resources. In the propagation of Krishna consciousness, there are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation and they require help. So even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor, and some organization to expand. So the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification. The same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building the office or temple for propagating Krishna consciousness, or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activity, and one should be interested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the results of such activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. This is voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness, will help one to rise to the higher state of love of God, whereupon he becomes perfect. This is the recommendation. Engage yourself in Krishna consciousness. In the commentaries in Srila Gurudev's book, he talks about some divisions of Bhakti Yoga in the purport to this verse. And I wanted to read those. The first 6 chapters explain Nishkarma Karma Yoga, activities offered to Bhagavan as a means to attain moksha, liberation. The second 6 chapters describe Bhakti Yoga as the means to attain Bhagavan. This Bhakti Yoga is of 2 types: the actions of the internal senses, which are steadily fixed on Bhagavan, and the activities of the external senses. The first type of Bhakti Yoga is further divided into 3 categories: Smarana, remembrance; Manana, meditation; Abhyasa, the practice of those who are unable to constantly remember, but who are attached to attaining such a stage. It's called Abhyasa Yoga. These 3 practices are indeed very difficult for those who are less intelligent, but they are easy for those who are free from offenses and devoted to pure intelligence. However, the second type of Bhakti Yoga, which engages the activities of the external senses, as previously described, in hearing, chanting, and so forth, is an easy means for everyone. Those who are engaged in either of these 2 types of Bhakti Yoga are superior to all others. This is being described in the second 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Those who are unable to perform either of these and who cannot worship Sri Bhagavan faithfully by controlling their senses and minds are qualified to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga offered to Bhagavan as described in the first 6 chapters. What Prabhupada is describing: give your land, give your work, give your money, give something in the service of Krishna. They are inferior to the above 2 types of Bhakti Yogis, but as Prabhupada says, gradually they will come to me. Gradually. So, that, what time is it now? It's long enough, huh? And tomorrow we will talk more. Let me just finish this last verse, because this verse ties up this section, and then we will go on from there. In verse 12, if, however, you are unable to, this is 11 and 12, if, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness, then try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. So you give up your attachments to work, you give up your desire for the fruit of your work, Nishkarm Karma Yoga, and try to be self-situated. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. But better than knowledge, however, is meditation. Better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. So, also, referring to these points that he made in the previous purport, the way this verse is translated by Srila Narayan Maharaj, better than abhyas, meaning what he said here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says abhyas, the practice of those who are unable to constantly remember, but who are attached to attaining such a stage. Better than abhyas is the gyan that gives rise to contemplation on me. Superior to gyan is dhyan, that meditation by which I am constantly remembered. Such dhyan, meditation, then leads to renunciation of the fruits of one's actions, whereby one becomes freed from the desires to enjoy swarga and attain moksha, and thus he achieves peace of mind. So he gives the principles here of the different stages of bhakti yoga in a different way, but in the end, the conception is the same. Okay? So Prabhupada says here, as mentioned in previous verses, there are two kinds of devotional service: the way of regulated principles and the way of full attachment in love, rag and vaidhi. For those who are actually not able to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, it is better to cultivate knowledge, because by knowledge one can be able to understand his real position. Gradually, knowledge will develop to the point of meditation. By meditation, one can be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by a gradual process. There are processes which make one understand that one himself is the Supreme, and that sort of meditation is preferred if one is unable to engage in devotional service. If one is not able to meditate in such a way, then there are prescribed duties as enjoined in the Vedic literatures for the Brahmins, the Vaishyas, and the Sudras, which we shall find in a later chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But in all cases, one should give up the result of the fruits of labor. This means to employ the result of karma, your work, for some good cause. In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One is the process by gradual development, and the other is the process is direct. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the direct method, and the other method involves renouncing the fruits of one's activities. Then one can come to the stage of knowledge, then to the stage of meditation, then to the stage of understanding the Supersoul, then to the stage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One may either take the step-by-step process or the direct path. The direct process is not possible for everyone. Therefore, the indirect process is also good. It is, however, to be understood that the indirect process is not recommended for Arjuna because he is already at the stage of loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. It is for others who are not at this state. For them, the gradual process of renunciation, knowledge, meditation, and realization of the Supersoul in Brahman should be followed. But as far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, it is the direct method that is stressed. Everyone is advised to take to the direct method and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that concludes his recommendations in the 12th chapter of how to practice Bhakti Yoga. Now, other points will be made in this 12th chapter, and then we will begin the discussion of the last 6 chapters, which is Jnana Yoga. Okay? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.